All right, Dalton, it is Big 12 week for our season previews. We're starting off with the Kansas State Wildcats, who won our favorite bowl game, the Pop-Tarts Bowl last year. I actually have a Pop-Tarts Bowl poster hanging up in my apartment right now. But, man, they have been the model of consistency under head coach Chris Klieman, man. They'd have 8 wins in 4 of his 5 seasons at Kansas State, and kind of around the same expectations this year as well. You see right there, 9.5 win total on FanDuel. They're considered to be one of the top teams in the Big 12, but they will be replacing a lot of their offense. Offensive coordinator Chris Klein now gone, going over to Texas A&M for the same job. Will Howard, their quarterback, transferred over to Ohio State. They lost their top 2 pass catchers, all 3 of its 5 starting offensive linemen, including Cooper Beebe as well. But they should still have a really, really good ground game that should lead that offense this year.
Yeah, for sure. I got to love any team that wins the Pop-Tart Bowl, and especially one with a 3-headed monster in the backfield like this, right? Start at quarterback with Avery Johnson, where he played some part-time last year, and I'll get into him a little bit more, but he's a dynamic running threat, and NC State learned that in their bowl game, in that Pop-Tart Bowl against them. And then you've got one of the top 10 backs in the country, according to us, and DJ Giddens, who's just a hard, physical, between-the-tackles runner. And I think, kind of very sneaky transfer portal pickup. Dylan Edwards from Colorado didn't have the best season at Colorado last year, but they also didn't block optimally. Edwards is a really good outside space threat that complements Giddens really well. So the core of this Kansas State team is going to be this 3-headed monster in the backfield of Johnson, Giddens, and Edwards.
Yeah, my biggest weakness on the other side of the ball is, will the front 7 improve, man? This has been the biggest weakness last year for the Wildcats, was that their defensive line and linebackers really did not grade out well at all. In fact, they were outside the top 100 in terms of PFF grade in their front 7. They were outside the top 90 in run defense grade, pass rushing grade, and tackling grade. And the worst part about that is that their highest graded front 7 player, edge defender Khalid Duke, he's signed with the Tennessee Titans as an undrafted free agent. So you already had a bad front 7. You take away the highest graded player from that front 7. I'm a little bit worried about that side, the front of that defense next year, and whether or not they can improve with basically the same-ish front 7 they had from last year. But Dalton, tell me more about Avery Johnson now, because I mentioned before Will Howard, a really good quarterback, and now the Ohio State starting quarterback. But Kansas State fans are still really excited about their true sophomore quarterback they have in Avery Johnson.
Yeah, no, I think with Johnson, we saw him some last year, and offensive coordinator Colin Klein, who's now at Texas A&M, did a really nice job of just getting him experience as a freshman, getting him reps on a college field. And look, the first thing that you notice is he's a dynamic runner. 14 explosive runs on just 52 non-kneel down carries, and you see the speed, right? It's all about speed. If he turns the corner, he's going a long, long way. We saw it in the bowl game over NC State. He had 5 rushing touchdowns against Texas Tech last season. This is a guy who's an explosive playmaker with his feet. He's going to fit in really well in the read option game, speed option game, bootlegs. Anything they want to do with Avery Johnson on the move is going to be a plus. The one thing we need to see is him be a little bit less raw as a passer, right? Last year, small sample size, but just 54% of his passes were deemed accurate per PFF's quarterback charting. So lots of work on, especially from the pocket in the drop back game, but a really, really good fit for how Kansas State, Chris Klieman runs this offense with a heavy rushing attack with multiple options and multiple lanes to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, they lost a Big 12 championship winning quarterback in Will Howard, but they are still very excited about what they have under center with Avery Johnson, who was a top 10 quarterback coming out of high school only a couple years ago as well. He'll have a really, really good player to rely on in that run game, though, in DJ Giddens, who did it all for Kansas State last year. He was 11th among Power 5 running backs with 1,226 rushing yards, 4th among Power 5 running backs with 326 receiving yards as well. And he was 10th among all running backs in the country with 69 forced missed tackles on the ground. And not only is he effective with the ball in his hands, man, he had the 11th best pass blocking grade among all Power 5 running backs as well at a 70.7 mark. So one of the most versatile running backs that we have in college football. He is the star of that Kansas State offense, and he made our top 10 running backs in the country video that you could check out if you want as well. But DJ Giddens, man, one of the best running backs that we have in America right now, and one of many star running backs that we have in the Big 12.
Absolutely, a great player and a versatile player, and versatility is the key for our defensive spotlight too. With Marquise Siegel, who's one of the best slot corners in the Big 12, if not in the country. Look, this is a guy who just plays slot corner the way you want him to, right? Steps up in the run game when you need him to, covers when you need him to. Forced 7 incompletions last year from the slot, which was a top 5 mark in the Power 5. You talk about a balanced player and a physical player coming from a really good culture. He transferred in from North Dakota State last year, and they're about as physical as any team, not just in the FCS, but as any team in the country. So he's brought that with him into the slot for Kansas State, and he's a player they're really going to rely on the back end to hold things down.
Absolutely. So Kansas State, Dalton, like I said before, a lot of people see them as the favorite to win the Big 12 conference right now. Do you think they're the best team in the Big 12, and do you think that they will secure a college football playoff berth at the end of the season?
They're certainly in that inner circle of contention, right? And I think the biggest X factor is Avery Johnson throwing the ball. I think something we're going to say about a lot of Big 12 teams is 2 things. One, quarterback play, because there's so many teams that run the ball, right? But who gets the difference making play from their quarterback? And 2 is run defense. You mentioned the front 7. You're playing a boatload of good run games in the Big 12 with Oklahoma State and Texas Tech and all these teams that can run the ball, including K-State. Those are going to be the 2 big factors. They're certainly in the inner circle. I would absolutely have them in the top 4 of contention. And they should expect to contend for a Big 12 title.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You look at that September 13th. I cannot wait for that game, man. Arizona at Kansas State. That is going to be maybe the biggest Big 12 game of the season, and we have it early in the season as well. But they got Tulane. You mentioned the run games, man. You got to play Oklahoma State against Ollie Gordon, the best running back that we have in college football. You got to play against West Virginia and their dynamic rushing attack as well. Kansas has a really good run game as well with Devin Neal there, and even Jalen Daniels a little bit too. There are a lot of run games that they're going to have to go up against and stop in order to get there. But I'm with you, man. I think this is a team that's one of the best teams in the Big 12. I personally am not taking them to win the Big 12. I don't believe you are either, right? So I don't think they are ultimately going to get a college football playoff berth, but this is still a really, really good team. And, they have a great head coach in Chris Kleiman, which I think, in college football, it really matters how good your head coach is. And Chris Kleiman is a terrific head coach. So they have a great head coach, an explosive run game, but some question marks, obviously, with Avery Johnson as a passer, their front 7 on defense that we talked about before, replacing all the starters in the offensive line, too. They should have a great run game, but is that enough for Kansas State to still be the best team in the Big 12? We will see. But that's what we got for the Kansas State Wildcats in our first Big 12 season preview. Hey, thanks for watching the PFF College Football Show. Before I let you go, though, we have an unbelievable deal for you guys right now. If you use the code CFB25, you get 25% off your PFF Plus annual subscription. We've got the 2024 College Football Preview Guide that you can find over at pff.com, featuring the best players in the country from all 70 Power 5 teams, plus 10 Group of 5 teams that have the best chance at making the college football playoff as well. You can also gain access to NCAA premium stats for historical games, teams, and player tracking dating all the way back to 2014, so the last decade or so of college football. All the stats you can hope for, you can find in PFF Premium as well. Also, you can be the GM of your favorite NFL team with our unbelievable mock draft simulator, where you can draft up to 7 rounds of players for your NFL team. And if you want to dominate your fantasy league, you could do that as well using the best fantasy tools on the planet. All of that and more with your PFF Plus annual subscription, which you can find for 25% off right now with the code you can find in the description. Or if you want to go to subscribe.pff.com and use the code CFB25 at checkout. Again, you get 25% off your PFF Plus subscription. This won't last forever, so make sure you take advantage of it right now.